Before we get going, I want to let you know that I have my how-to guide sculpting a realistic Spinosaurus out. If you would like to check that out, I would greatly appreciate it. Let's start working on part 7, the barbed teeth of the Onchopristis.
All right, so welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to go ahead and work on the barbed teeth on the rostrum, which I believe is what it's called. Let me take a look here really quick. The rostrum, yep, that's this little sword-like thing. So the teeth, which I have provided in the pure ref, are barbed. They have this little point, a bit like an arrow. So yeah, there you have it. What we're going to do is just create a new scene. So you're just going to hit this little tab button up here, hit new, and I'm just going to call it barbed tooth. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and hop into the right perspective, do a Shift A, and I do have a reference image that we can work off of. This one right here. I'm going to go ahead and scale this down. All right, so we have this added to our scene now, and I'm just going to go ahead and scale this down. Something like this. Now, the sizing I couldn't quite figure out in the pure ref. You can see here it's about a centimeter, so I guess it'd probably be about 1, 2, we'll just say 10 centimeters. So I'm going to go into my units and change it to empirical. And if you're bad with math like myself, I'm going to change it from length, and we'll do inches, which actually it might be in the metric. So I'll go length, centimeters. So it's in the metric, not empirical. And what we'll do is get our ruler. And again, we'll probably just randomly measure from here. And we'll just say it's about 10 centimeters. So we'll say 5. And let me undo that. Grab this. GZ. GZ. Let's go to 10 centimeters. Something about there should be fine. All right, let's go back to our select box. And looks like I lost the measurement. So from here, I can just go ahead and drag the image before going to the select box. So now that we have this measured out, let's go ahead and reposition this. So I'm going to do a Shift S and do selection to cursor. So it looks like our origin point's right there. So what I'll do is do a Shift S, cursor to selected. I guess we're going to have to move this manually. That's okay. All right. So with that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and just rotate this so that this is kind of the basis of just being flat. You don't have to do this if you don't want. You can work it the way it was. All right, so with the data, I'm going to just turn on opacity, turn this down. Don't really need to mess with this front back thing. So I'm just going to leave it as is. So we're just going to do a Shift A, and again, just do the mesh and cube. Scale this way down. So we have something like this. And I'm thinking we're going to go ahead and just do the same method of applying a subdivision. So I'm not going to make it super dense with topology. So just getting kind of the basic shape. And you don't have to follow the curvature 100%. I'm actually going to apply a loop cut in here, so I'm not too worried about where it's placed right now. Do an extrusion. And we're going to do an extrusion here, so don't worry about that just yet. And one more extrusion for the top. So let's go ahead and just kind of fix this edge up. Scaling that. And right about here, hop into our right perspective, selecting this face. Just going to do an extrude. Scale, rotate, bring that down. Get these two verts with X-ray mode enabled and just kind of start manipulating its shape. All right, so something like this. It's great. And let's just add in one loop cut. Again, we're going to apply a sub D, so we really don't want it to be super dense with topology. All right, so things are going to be a little, maybe not so strange, which is actually surprising for once, in the perspective view, but let's just go ahead and with everything selected, mostly everything, so I'll just go ahead and select all this, and with circle select, just kind of deselecting some of these faces. What I'll do is do an SX until we have something like that. And we can even make this a little bit pointier. Now, if the image is really annoying you, you could just turn it on only aligned axis. So now when you're in the right or left axis, you'll see the image pop up. Otherwise, you won't see it at all. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just tweak these ever so slightly. Nothing crazy here. You can also enable Control 1 to subdivide, and there we have it, the barbed tooth. So nothing crazy there. Again, you could, with the subdivision, just do some fine tweaking if you would like it to align to the reference image a little bit better. Now with the pure ref, I do have more barbed teeth in here that you can use. Feel free to create as many teeth as you want. But for the case of this short course, I'm just going to work with one tooth and just duplicate them. All right, so you could tighten this area down here, but you won't ever see it, so I'm just going to Control Z it. All right, so I think that's decent for what we need. And maybe I might say shrink this area in a little bit like that. And we could just make this a little bit sharper. Okay, so that'll do. Maybe I'm not done quite yet. Let me actually grab these vertices and kind of really enunciate that barbed look. Like that. Something like that. Okay, that should work. All right, again, let's go ahead and apply our scale, because if we go to duplicate these, I did a Alt-D, GX, I'll do a GY, and we try to apply the rotation scale, it will want to be its own object data. And you can see right now it's linked, and it'll make it really difficult if we don't do that now. So let's just do a Control A and apply rotation and scale. We don't need to worry about the location. One thing we could actually do is move the origin point. So I'm going to select the bottom part of the mesh and do a Shift S, cursor to selected, right click, and do a set origin to 3D cursor. All right, so let's go ahead and save that now. And let's do a Control C, and let's hop back into our regular scene. All right, so one other thing that I didn't think about, so let's go back to our barbed tooth. So the barbed tooth is actually rotated up right now. We're probably going to want to lie it down. So you can go ahead and pull up your rotation, and let's just rotate it on the Y by 90. So now we have it laying flat, which is ideally what we want when we add it to the Onchopristis. All right, so Control C, let's go back to our scene, hop into our top perspective because that's where we're going to find the barbed teeth. I'm going to right click right about here and do a Control V. All right, so we're probably not going to be able to see this, and it's probably because it's way off here, and that's okay. Let's just go ahead and grab it. Also, you can do a Shift S and you can do selection to cursor. All right, so we did the measurements relatively right, and that's a first for me, so that's cool. All right, so let's go ahead and place this in, and my best guess is honestly that the barb goes towards the mouth of the Onchopristis. I don't think it would be the other way around, so hopefully this is correct. Let me know if I'm wrong about this, but here we go. All right, let's do an Alt-D to make a linked copy. And the linked copy is basically saying like, hey, you're going to use the UVs of this duplicate and everything about it is pretty much going to be an identical twin. Like everything's going to be the same. It's going to share the same UV space, the same materials, etc. And you can always click on this to make it its own individual copy. Making it a linked copy also saves on memory. So there's some definite ups and downs about it. So now if I go ahead and rotate, you can see that I can rotate it in object mode, but the moment you go into edit mode, it will just rotate everything. So just keep that in mind. Now I might, and if you you can scale if you'd like, but anything you do in edit mode will naturally affect all of the barbed teeth, essentially the mesh. All right, so we can go ahead and continue. I'm going to do an Alt-D. All the way through. Continue this. Maybe we'll sink it in a little bit more and start rotating. And we got the smaller one in here. Now again, you can have different kinds of teeth if you'd like. This is just a bit quicker for the purpose of this course. All right, so let me go ahead and unhide. I think I just hid the Onchopristis. All right, there we go. All right, and this is kind of lined up nicely, and you can go ahead and add some variation to where things are being placed. And I can go ahead and enable individual origins. So things, again, the reason we changed that origin point is because that is going to be the axis of rotation. So if I had, again, in that barbed tooth scene, if we hadn't placed it at the bottom, if it was somewhere in here, it would rotate based on being, that is the point of orientation. I hope that makes sense. And if it's up here, it rotates from that pivot point, etc. So that's kind of why we changed that. And do something like this with all of them. All right, so there's definitely some variation in there now, which is nice. All right, so the one downside about doing duplicates is if you try to, and actually let's just go ahead and move all these cubes into your own collection. So I'm going to just do an M and hit collection, just call them barbed teeth, hit OK. You can also do a batch rename. So batch rename, the selected objects, let's just set the name, let's do new, just do barbed tooth, hit OK. So now they're all barbed tooth, but then they have the 0.00s behind them. That's okay. All right, so we have them named now barbed teeth. So let's just go ahead and join them together. So let's just do a Control J, and they have been joined. So that's perfect. Let's go ahead and hop into our modifiers panel, and we're going to want to apply this subdivision. So let's just go ahead and do that now. So I just did a Control A, and don't forget we have this barbed tooth scene saved. So realistically, you can also rename this as like your backups, and you can go ahead and just pull your backup Onchopristis and put it in there, so you don't have to have it in the main scene. It's up to you. But anyway, so what we want to do is with the barbed teeth, and I'm just going to go ahead and rename this because I have a little bit of OCD about it, object that we want to add the modifier, and we want to make it flip on the Onchopristis. Now we're probably going to want to change the origin point, so I'm just going to do a edit, do a Shift S and cursor to selected, and let's go ahead and set origin to 3D cursor, and let's go ahead and change our mirroring point onto the Oncho shark. All right, so now we have something like this. And let's just see if we can go ahead and apply our rotation scale. So that's all perfect. And now we have something like this, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and just collapse or hide our references collection. And right away I can see that we need to kind of address our eyeball situation. And what I'll do is just simply get the sculpt brush. Oh, I see. We have the mask. So what I'm going to do is just with the mask, go ahead and clear it. So clear the mask and go into draw. You don't have to. You can still smooth with the mask brush. Though actually, I don't know if you can. So let me go ahead and do that. It does look like you can, but maybe it just smooths the mask. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and just smooth the eyeball. Around the eyeball, I should say, the eye socket. Let's go ahead and with object mode, select the eyeball. And let's position this. And I keep hiding the Onchopristis. Let's go ahead and position this a little bit better inside of the eye socket. And I think I would like to flatten this area a little bit more. And with sculpt, I'll go ahead and just kind of soften that once more. We hop into edit mode and pull this area in till we have something like this. Now, if ever you're unsure that things are being transferred the way it should be, just select everything, FN, F3, do a symmetrize, and everything should be A-OK. If you had X enabled, it should also be okay, but if ever you add in any extra sort of geometry, that won't symmetrize. So just a heads up. So we could do an A, M, merge by distance, and we have nothing to remove. So that's awesome. And one other thing that we want to do is just check our face orientation and make sure everything is okay. And bring the barbed teeth back, make sure that looks good. Okay, it looks like everything has been done correctly, so that's always nice. I'm going to move the origin point. So you can see the origin point's right at the beginning of the nose, and I think that's because that's where we started. Let's go ahead and edit, or hop into edit mode. Do a Shift S with the Onchopristis selected, cursor to selected, hop out into object mode, right click, set origin, origin to 3D cursor. Awesome. So this is it. This is the end of the course. Thank you so much for being with me as I created this. I hope you had learned something or made something kind of cool. Please share it with me. I would love that. And thank you again. And I'll see you next time.